Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be starting a new series of videos on the topic operating systems. Okay, so this is a very important topic in computer science and many interviewers also ask questions from operating systems. So let's start with our first video. So the objectives of this video are that we firstly want to learn how different applications are able to use the different hardware resources, what happens when a system is switched on, what is an operating system, what is a kernel, what is operating system structure, what is the operating system structure, how is it structured, what are the functionalities of operating systems, and overall how operating systems enable processors to execute actual programs, and how input-output devices and hard disks and other hardware devices are accessed by the users. Okay, so these are the main objectives. Now let's start. So firstly speaking, what happens when a computer or a machine starts, when it is switched on? So there's this a chip called BIOS, which is basically the basic input-output system. Okay, it has two tasks. The first task is called post, power on self-test. What this does is it checks if all the connected devices are working, like the mouse, the keyboard, and all other internal hardware devices. It just checks if all of them are working. Now, power on self-test. What this does is it checks if all the connected devices are working or not. Okay, all the hardware devices, it checks if they're working or not. Now, the second task that it performs is it initiates bootloader. That is, basically a bootloader is what brings the operating system from the hard disk to the main memory. The operating system, before the machine turns on, it's actually residing in the hard disk. So what the bootloader does is it brings it to the main memory where actually all the processing happens, and where the programs run, where all the processes run. Hard disk, the BIOS brings the operating system from any bootable device that is connected to the machine. So it could either be the hard disk or any other bootable device like floppy disk, CD-ROM, or even a partition in the hard disk. So Linux is an operating system that is booted from the hard disk in general. Okay. Now moving on. Operating system is basically a collection of modules to perform various functions. Now, what is a kernel? A kernel is a part of the operating system that helps to access the hardware resources. Kernel is basically the heart of an operating system. It is what has the access to all the hardware devices. Any application that wants to access the hardware has to go through the kernel. Okay, moving on. In Linux, mostly we'll be discussing about Linux only because it helps us to understand an operating system easily. So the kernel will set up essential hardware and memory. So when you switch on the machine, the function called start kernel takes place, and that function basically sets up the kernel. After the initial setup, two important modules to handle initiation of processes and managing idle processes are loaded and executed. So in Linux, the init and idle process get executed. That is, when we switch on the machine, initially the first functions that run are the init process and the idle process. These are the two processes that help us initiate and help us manage the idle processes that are there in our system, in our operating system. Once the initial modules of the kernel are loaded, the kernel, obviously it has to get loaded in the beginning because only using that we can actually perform any access to the hardware. Okay, so that's about the kernel. Now moving on, once the initial modules of the kernel are loaded, they will call the other modules as and when required. So obviously the kernel has to be loaded first, because any process, if it wants to access the hardware, if it wants to get executed, it has to go through the kernel. So the kernel modules will have to be installed, must be initiated first. Once they are initiated, once the initial modules are loaded into the main memory, they will call the other modules as and when required. Okay. Now moving on, I have a question for you. Will an entire operating system reside in the main memory? That is, first, as I already said, the operating system is initially present in any one of the bootable devices. So my question to you is, will the entire operating system be bought into the main memory from the bootable device? Please do answer in the comment section, and after a few days I'll give you the answer. Now moving on, what does an operating system do? According to Siller-Schatz and Gavin, an operating system is similar to a government. Basically, it manages all the processes, all the devices, everything. It controls everything and manages everything that a user needs. Okay. Now, operating system, as we've already discussed, is a collection of modules, and the modules are responsible for different functions to cater the user needs. Now, moving on. What are the major modules of the operating system and what are its functionalities? Okay, so these are the basic functions of any operating system. Firstly, resource management. That is, all the resources will have to be managed by the operating system, obviously. The second function is abstraction. The user should not know what is happening how. The user should be able to, the operating system should be very user friendly, and the user should be able to perform his task easily. Protection, that is security. The operating system is also responsible for providing the security, basic security to the user's data or whatever he wants to do. Fault isolation. The operating system should be able to understand where the problems are happening and it should be able to solve them. Now, these are the main functions, and these functions are provided by these modules of the operating system. The process manager, operating system has a process manager which ensures that all the processes take place or get executed properly. Main memory management. What are the things that should be present in the main memory and at what time? That is also taken care by the operating system. The I/O system management, all the input-output devices should be managed by the operating system. File management, that is where what files are stored, the storing of files, okay, that is file management. Networking and user interfaces. These are the major modules of any operating system. Now, moving on. Okay, so there are different types of operating systems based on how their modules, we've discussed these modules, right? How these modules are organized. Based on that, we have a few classifications in operating systems. First, monolithic. In a monolithic operating system, all the functionalities are present in one single layer. That is, they are all in the kernel. Okay, that is what a monolithic system is. Layered is in a layered operating system. The lower levels are independent of the upper levels. That is, the upper levels are completely independent. Upper levels can perform their own functions, while similarly the lower levels will also be able to perform their own functions. Microkernel is basically a OS built from many user level processes. So basically, different users or different user level processes combine to form the microkernel. Distributed. Core kernel is with dynamically loadable modules. That is, there's one basic kernel and the different other modules can be dynamically loaded. That is, they can be loaded into the main memory or into the kernel whenever, as and when required. Now, layered OS is the most important or the most widely used kind of operating system. So we'll be discussing that in a little detail. So as you can see in this diagram, these are the applications that the user is running. So what is the flow in any operating system? For example, a user is using application 1. It calls the system calls, that is this part is the kernel. So this is the kernel space and below it is the hardware. So for the user to get into the or use the hardware, he'll have to go through the kernel. He can't access it directly. Now these are the device drivers that help the kernel to communicate with the hardware. This is the kernel. The kernel basically talks, it gets the instructions from the applications or the user, and based on that is basically a system call. A system call is basically any command given to the kernel. So the application performs a system call, which basically goes to the kernel, either to the kernel subsystems or to the device drivers directly, because we are already in the kernel space. So these perform the so if it's going to a kernel subsystem, it further calls the device driver, or else it directly calls the device driver, and the device driver helps us perform or execute the process in the hardware. Okay. So an important detail that I want to mention here is that this is the upper layer. The user space is the upper layer and the kernel space is the lower layer. Okay. So the upper layer is definitely dependent on the lower layer. For example, if the kernel wants to perform something, it does not need to go to the user space. It can directly execute. But if the user wants to perform something, he needs to go through the kernel to access the hardware, while the kernel can directly access the hardware. So in a layered OS, these are just two layers that we have, but in layered OS we can have multiple layers where the upper layers are always dependent on the lower ones. Okay, so that is what basically a layered OS is. Moving on, we have so here we have the hardware is the lowest layer. Okay, so the hardware can only be accessed by the kernel space. The kernel can be accessed by the various libraries that are there. The libraries can be accessed by the shell, and the shell can be accessed by the applications. So this is how it works. The upper layers are always dependent on the lower ones. Application is the highest layer. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layered operating systems diagram. Okay, so that's it for this, and moving on. Yeah, so this is a very important thing to know, that is how are the access, like what define the access, like each layer has a particular access, right? So what defines, how do we maintain that? So in operating systems in general, we have something called rings. Ring 0, ring 1, ring 2, ring 3. So if the kernel belongs to the ring 0, so there's a set of instructions that the kernel can run. So those instructions come under ring 0. There are certain instructions that these device drivers can run. Those come under ring 1. They are basically defined by they're defined by a few numbers. Like each instruction has a number as an identity number, and those identity numbers that belong to ring 0 can be executed by the kernel. Similarly, those that are present in ring 1 can be executed by these device drivers. That is how the ring system works. All modern CPU architectures come with protection rings. So that is what is happening. The innermost ring is the most privileged. That is, it can perform most of the instructions. Now moving on, we need to understand what the difference between a program and a process is. A program is basically a set of code, or a set of lines of code, or a few lines of code that is present in the secondary memory. While being executed, to be executed, it has to be bought into the main memory, right? So when the program or the code is bought into the main memory and it starts executing, that is called a process. When it is in the main memory, it is called a process. When it is in the secondary memory, it is called a program. Okay. Now, to execute any program, first the program is brought into the main memory. Then, with the help of the process management module that we saw above, a process is created from the program. Now, for the process, the space is allocated in the main memory. Any process has three segments: the code section, the segment, the data segment, and the stack segment. Okay, so this you would have known before as well. So a process is divided into three segments. The code segment contains the instructions, the data segment contains the data that is used in the program, and the stack segment is used for procedure calls. As you know, any function, for in any program, the function calls are handled by the stack segment. To perform function calls, we require the stack segment. Okay, so yeah, any process has these three segments. Now, moving on, I have a few questions, a couple of questions for you. So the first question is the number of CPU protection rings, and is it necessary that the number of CPU protection rings and the number of OS layers the same? Is it compulsory that the number of CPU protection rings in an operating system and the number of layers that are there, should they be the same? That is my first question. My second question is, if a monolithic operating system has a CPU with 8 protection rings, does that work? These are my two questions. Please do answer in the comment section below. Okay, moving on. How does the operating system help us access the input-output devices? Okay, so each device is accessed via a module called the device driver. Okay, so for example, your keyboard will have a particular device driver, your mouse will have a particular device driver. Okay, so using these device drivers, we access the devices. Now, each device is associated with a major number and a minor number. The major number helps us recognize the driver that can be used for the device. All devices with the same major number use the same device driver. Like for example, if you have two mouses connected to your laptop, both of them will have the same major number, and using that major number, they'll be using the driver. That is, they'll be using the driver that is dedicated to the mouse. Now, when a system is installed, device files are created. To use a device, the kernel looks for major identity number to identify the corresponding driver. So if we want to use the mouse, the kernel looks for the major number, that is, or if you want to use a printer, that's a better example. If you want to use a printer, the kernel first looks for the major number, that is, it looks for the printer's major number to identify its corresponding driver. Once the device driver has understood, it will now look for the minor number to distinguish. If you have two printers, it wants to distinguish between the two printers, and so it will be using the minor number to identify which printer we have selected. The device drivers are modules with details about various functions that can be performed on the device. So read from the device, write into the device, or if it's a printer, give input to the device to print. Okay, so that's it. That's what happens and for accessing an input or output device. Now, device drivers are modules with details about various functions that can be performed on the device. Like if it's a printer, you can give information to the device or give the file to the printer to print. So this is how a device driver works, and this is how, using device drivers, an operating system enables input-output access. Okay, so that's it for this video, and in the further videos we'll be looking at more details about operating systems. And do like, share and subscribe if you've liked this video and have got some kind of use out of it. Thank you for watching.